A crow watched a scientist hide food inside a locked box, waited for the scientist to leave, then solved the lock in under 3 minutes, took the food, and then buried it under a pile of leaves, specifically so another crow that had been watching couldn't find it. That is not animal instinct. That is planning, deception, and theory of mind. And crows do this routinely. Most people walk past crows every single day and assume they're just birds. But the crow next to your trash can has memorized your face, clocked every single time you walked by, and decided whether you are a threat. So let's talk about how smart crows actually are, and why it should make you feel slightly uncomfortable. First, let's talk about the brain. Crows belong to the family Corvidae, which includes ravens, jays, and magpies. Every single bird in this family has a brain-to-body ratio that rivals apes. Not chickens, not pigeons, apes. The part of a crow's brain responsible for higher thinking is the nidopallium caudolateral. It functions almost identically to the human prefrontal cortex, the part you use to plan ahead, control impulses, and make decisions. Now let's get into the actual tests, because this is where things get weird. Cambridge University ran a test called the Aesop's Fable task. They placed a worm floating on water inside a tall tube. The worm was too deep for the crow to reach with its beak. Around the tube, they placed a pile of rocks, some hollow objects, and a sponge. The crow picked up only the solid rocks, dropped them one by one into the tube, and raised the water level until the worm floated into reach. The crow understood water displacement. The same physical principle that Archimedes discovered, the crow figured out by itself. Here's the part about tools. Most animals that use the tools they find. New Caledonian crows manufacture tools. They take a leaf, strip it down to a specific shape, and use it to fish grubs out of tree bark. But here is what separates crows from almost every other animal. They have been documented making tools from multiple parts. In one Oxford study, a crow named Betty was given 2 wire pieces, one straight, one with a slight hook. The other crow in the enclosure took the hooked wire, leaving Betty with only the straight one. So Betty bent the straight wire into a hook, using her beak and her foot as a vise, and used it to retrieve the food. She was never taught to do this. She invented it on the spot. Now let's talk about memory, because this is the one that makes people genuinely uneasy. A wild crow can remember a specific human face for over 5 years. A University of Washington study put this to the test. Researchers wore a specific mask while trapping and banding crows on campus. From that moment forward, every crow that had been trapped would scold, dive bomb, and mob any person wearing that specific mask. The researchers then wore different masks on the same campus. The crows ignored them completely. And then came the part nobody expected. Crows that had never been trapped before. Younger crows who had no personal experience with that mask also started scolding the mask wearer. The older crows had taught the younger crows which specific human face to distrust. That is cultural transmission of threat information, the same social mechanism humans use to warn their children about danger. And if you thought that was uncomfortable, crows hold grudges. Not the vague animal instinct type of grudge, a very specific, long-term, targeted grudge against you specifically. There are documented cases of crows dropping rocks on people, not accidentally, on the specific people they've decided are enemies. They also bring gifts to people they like. Small, shiny objects, pebbles, even dead bugs. They're maintaining social relationships. Now here is the final test. And it is the one that has genuinely troubled philosophers. The mirror test. It is the gold standard test for self-awareness in animals. When a magpie, a corvid, sees a colored dot placed on its body in a mirror, it tries to remove the dot from its actual body, not at the mirror, at itself. That means the bird understands that the image in the mirror is a representation of its own body. That is self-recognition, the only non-mammal species ever documented to pass this test. So here is the real question this video has been building toward. If a crow can plan for the future, recognize individual human faces, teach younger generations, make compound tools, hold targeted grudges, and recognize itself in a mirror, then what exactly are we comparing it to when we say it's just a bird? The next time a crow lands near you, know that it has already assessed you, filed your face into its long-term memory, and is deciding right now whether you're worth trusting. Be nice to crows. You genuinely do not want them as enemies.